Hello. Oh my god, I fucking just started that with the fucking cool girl voice. Hello. Right, this is a podcast of many actually. Let me just bloody hell. Let's just close this window. Let's get professional here, as professional as we can. Um, this is a podcast of many. But podcasts come in all shapes and sizes. They are a popular way of consuming media and expressing emotions, I guess, and discussing and interviewing. Um, they evolved from the broadcast, which for all those young kiddies there, or unless you've been sleeping under a rock, you used to have these things called radios that had like antennas, which were like these long metal things that point up to the sky and pick up these things called radio waves. Before we had the old 5G, um, where basically, you know. Anyway, why am I going into the history of podcasts? Let's just make one. Um, yeah, I this for anyone who knows me, this is probably like the most unexpected thing. I I can't stand the thought of just speaking into like an animate object like a camera. I've only ever done it if I've had to, for for college or uni, for like to evaluate work or reflect on things, I guess. Um, I'm much I'm much more comfortable behind a camera or creating something that someone else is kind of the focal point of it, and I guess my vision is kind of the driving force behind it, but I'm not actually seen there. I guess my essence comes across. I guess my creativity comes across. Um, and I have obviously been on podcasts before in a group environment. With mates, really more of a social thing. I guess it's with kind of, I think it lasted maybe a year and a half, 2 years. Which kind of evolved from a college assignment anyway. Where we had to where we had to make a podcast for. Basically we were shit at audio, so tutors were like, oh yeah, we're not actually gonna film anything. We're just gonna you're just gonna do a podcast so you can like practice with your audio editing and stuff. And the one I was on was pretty awful. Which wasn't my fault. I thought I was pretty good, but the guy I was on with decided to script the entire thing, so it was the most awkward fucking. I I mean, I think it's out there somewhere, but if I find it anywhere, I hope I'm gonna be like George Lucas, who literally hunted down every last copy of the holiday special and burned it. That podcast should be erased from history. I don't remember what it was called, but if it's on the other guy's channel, then yeah. um, but as far as my own podcast, that's about it until now. And I kind of find myself like talking to myself anyway, like most of the day. So why not record it and make the rest of the world listen? Uh, not that 7 billion or how many people are gonna actually listen to it. But those who can, you're in for a treat. Um, so I don't even know. I'm not even sure what I'm gonna call this. I don't know where it's gonna go. I've heard that well, I do listen to a lot of podcasts, and some of the ones that I listen to, they have started on YouTube, and more and more of them seem to have transitioned over to Spotify. I'm not sure why. It might be because, I mean, I'd assume it'd be some kind of finance issue. And also, as Spotify is strictly a listening based service, like I would guess that, YouTube is a very saturated area, isn't it? And yeah, but I don't know where I'm gonna put this. I've heard I've never really explored the world of Patreon that much. So I'm considering that, but I've heard that it's best to have a bit more of a following first, because some of the podcasts that I listen to, they'll have like their main podcast on like YouTube or Audible or Spotify, and then they'll have a Patreon which is like a little bit extra. So it's like they'll do an hour and then another 20 minutes, half an hour for Patreon. Um, but I think you need the fan base first. So I'm not expecting any like big bucks from this. I mean, this is simply just a way of just airing my opinions, really, which I guess I'm well known for anyway. But making making more people listen to it essentially. So if you have earache by the end of this, I'm not sorry. So please subscribe or whatever. um, so I guess we'll start with sort of, well, let's put a bit of context. I mean, if anyone's listening to this in like 10 years' time, that this is currently sort of the back end of this bloody pandemic lockdown shenanigans, where we've only just been allowed to go out and meet people, but people have been doing that for ages. Um, Not me, of course. No, I'm a good boy. No, especially when my freaking loft room is absolutely boiling. I just locked myself away. I haven't left for 11 weeks. How long it's been? Um, I'm like a lizard. I just hibernate. Um, so yeah, and I am currently I've currently just finished. It's so weird to say because I've only been in there for half a year. But I've currently just finished my first year at uni. Um, you know, it's not what I signed up for, but that's not their fault. Yeah, I'm a film student. I mean, it's film and photography, but they seem to be more lenient on film. Um, I guess I guess that's more. I guess they tailor it more towards the demographic who are actually the students who are actually studying, because that a lot of the topics they're like, oh well, you can do that you can do a documentary and then present it in a visual way, which basically means you can either make a film or you can do a set of stills. Which, I mean, if you had the choice, you'd do stills, because like filmmaking is really difficult. It's compared to photography, it's like it's probably the hardest art form you could go into in terms of storytelling. It's there's so many more. There's so much. There's so much more involved. There's so many more people involved. Um, but I guess I'm just one of the unlucky few who have to tell a story through a camera. Um, I've tried painting. Yeah, it's all right. It's It's more of a therapeutic thing, I think. And I'm not that good at it. I'm not Mozart or anything, but wait, Mozart. Wait, Mozart, was he a painter? Wait, what am I saying? I'm going off the rails already. Mozart, who was he? Was he a painter or was he a musician? Well, Beethoven was. See. Oh no, Mozart was a composer. So, what have I been doing today? Oh no, what was I talking? What was I talking about? I was talking about art, wasn't I? So yeah, painting. I've tried that. Um, I'm not really a writer. I mean, I write scripts. That's about I mean, because that's part of the filmmaking process, which is probably my least favorite part of it. The whole script writing part. I'm not that I'm lazy or anything. I just prefer the idea of having a designated writer, and then because most of the time they'll know what they're doing more than what I do. Like if someone specializes in script writing, they're gonna have a firm grasp on like how to set out a script and like the whole pacing of it. I'm much more of a visual person, so if I write a script, I will start thinking about the camera angles and the lighting, which is not what you should have in a script. I mean, you're supposed to have like kind of guidelines maybe, but it's not normal. It's not typical for a script to have, or a screenplay to have screen directions really. It's different if it's a play. Um, but yeah, it's no, I couldn't write a novel. I don't think I could. I mean, it's one thing to like write a script, which for a film, which I've never written for a feature film, but for a short film it's like 20 pages max, and then for a feature film you're aiming for at least 90 pages, which is kind of like 90-minute. What can we just bring back 90-minute film? Though, why do films have to be 3 hours long nowadays? Um, yeah, so that's about as far as I'll go in terms of writing, and then photography. That's kind of where I found my kind of footings in the kind of visual way of expressing artistically, and with the whole I got a camera. I was like, wow, this is kind of the sort of gateway into another world of freezing moments essentially, and I guess it's my photography journey has kind of evolved in many ways. I started out um, doing a lot of landscapes and animals, and more recently I found myself more drawn towards portraiture and actual like people, because there's something about having people frozen in a moment, especially like street photography, where literally they don't you're literally you're you're just sitting in a place for hours, just waiting for anything to happen. There's just something kind of you're like a fly on the wall. Like they don't know they don't know they're being taken, having their photo taken. You'll see, you want to go up to them afterwards, like, hey, I'm a photographer, yeah, blah blah blah. It's not the night crawler here. So and some of the best photos, in my opinion, like the street photography or raw photography, just kind of unplanned moments essentially. So and then I never really had an interest in making films at that point. It wasn't until I started college really and did like a just a general media course. I was kind of one of the modules was film. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, and I like the whole collaboration behind it, because photography is a very kind of solo gig. Whereas filmmaking is it's near impossible to like make a film by yourself. I mean, I mean, on a short film, it's kind of it's possible. I've tried it before, but I wouldn't recommend it. And I've seen the results for people who have like one of my mates. I think he filmed it in about a day or something. He basically like I don't think he wrote a script or anything, but he just basically like thought, well, let's as an experiment, let's see what I can get out of a day of filming. And if you've got the kit and you've got decent lighting and a camera and sound, that's kind of all you need, I feel. By the way, if it sounds like my sentences are like cutting off, it's because it's recording like 10-minute segments, so then I've got to like put them together. Uh, my dumbass doesn't know how to work anything probably yet. But there you go. This is the first podcast, so and I literally didn't plan this. Just for instead of talking to myself all the time, why not talking to a microphone? And I'm always screaming at inanimate objects anyway. Uh, like fucking stubbed my toe on the table the other day. I was like, "You fucking idiot!" Like, like starts abusing furniture because it's there. Oh my god, how was I ever in a relationship for 3 years? That's an interesting topic. Why is it always why do they always say like whenever you get if you're in a relationship and one of them one of you goes into like uni, um that's the end. Why is that? I mean, I guess they were right because that's what happened to me. But why is that the case? I guess it's I guess it's maybe jealousy of the other person. Like they're they're actually achieving something. I guess they're actually going on with their dream while you're still stuck in a freaking McCall's selling selling fucking beer, Savers beer. What are you, someone while your partner's studying a psychology degree? It's like, where's the conversation gonna go? So, hey, what were you doing today? Oh, just fucking sold a porno magazine. What about you? Yeah, well, just analysing people's dreams and, discussing these deep and meaningful theories. It cost me 1,500 a year, but oh well. 15, no, I got 15,000, I should say. Yeah, it's free university. I think it's education, like higher education is like if you're honestly stuck in terms of like a career, just and you want to kind of get a more you know yeah, I know people are like, oh, you don't have to go to uni, someone so didn't go to uni. Steven Spielberg didn't go to uni, but it in terms of like opening doors for you and just like making the mistakes that you probably would in like your first year of work in a non-professional environment where it's a safe space. Um, yeah, I couldn't recommend it enough. Really, going to uni. The mistake I made was like in hindsight was I haven't left home, which I feel like I'm kind of missing out on the full uni experience of you know moving as far away from home as possible, which I think I actually remember a tutor saying that to me. He's like, oh yeah, with uni you want to try and move as far. I'd recommend moving as far away from home as possible. And I kind of get that now because I am, especially with this whole pandemic thing, I'm sick of like just this. I'm sick of this room. Like, and it gets so hot up here as well. But I'm just sick of like. It's just I just want to leave. Like, but I'm kind of just stuck in this now for at least another 2 more years. And I mean, I'd like to go to like film school and possibly do a masters, but it's then we're getting into more money now. Um, but there's there's a there's a film school in Beaconsfield, I think, I think it's in Buckinghamshire, which is quite a posh area. And it's kind of like outside of London, so it's near enough to like the industry, but it's not like you're in a packed city all the time. And it's, Beaconsfield, I think it's quite well, all the sort of areas around there are sort of quite old parts of Britain, and I kind of like the sort of rural atmosphere of those sort of places. Um, and they, unlike like the Met Film School, for example, in Ealing, which is like sort of the main sort of, well, it's part of Ealing Studios, which is where I think they film. I think it's where Andy Serkis and they do all like the motion capture stuff there. So that would be pretty cool if I was there for like a year's masters, and they do like a masters in like directing or like cinematography or screenwriting. Um, but at the National Film School in Beaconsfield, they're even more specific. Like they'll have they do like 2 year masters in directing, but they'll have like it'll be directing for like different genre, well, not different genres, but different types of film. Or so they'll have like directing for like a masters in directing for animation, directing for documentary, directing for like television, directing to for fiction. And then I think I said documentary, didn't I? And that just that the directing for fiction one, because I know you don't want to like put yourself in a box or anything, but if you've got the focus like I have, like I know where I want to be. I don't have like a year by year plan, but I have like I have like this end goal. Um, I'm not the type of guy who's like, I'm just gonna settle for like working in Sainsbury's for my whole life, or working in an office, somewhere where you're essentially, at the end of the day, you're working for someone else's, goal. You're helping someone else achieve their dream, whilst you're essentially, working your ass off towards an early grave. For pittance as well. I don't get that whole. I think school is to blame for that. It's just so it dawned on me the other day that we spend, what is it, like 15 years, like the first 15 years at least of our life, which, I mean, what percentage is it? I mean, hang on, maths lesson. Maybe I should be dissing school. So 50, what's the average like age like limit to now? So it's like, should we just say 80? So 15 years. Well, let's round that up to 20. So fucking hell. So you spend a quarter, nearly a quarter of your life in a, in this environment where they teach you stuff that you're never gonna use the rest of, most likely never gonna use for the rest of your life, and they especially in secondary school, they condition you to think, oh yeah, this is how it's going to be. You have to be competitive, and you have to basically get, you know, these grades, these numbers that are going to be just tied to your name, um, because apparently that's what's going to get you the best job, the best, and so very early on they're teaching you that you have to you have to be competitive. You have to basically work your way up the ladder of like, and that is just the typical like pyramid like scheme of like just a company where you starting off at the desk, and your goal is to essentially get to CEO, which your probability is against you. I mean, you're not, no one makes it. And yeah, I just basically don't agree with school. I think it starts too early, like 4 years old. Like that is the I mean, why would a 4-year olds? You have to dress up, especially uniforms now. They wear like blazers at 4. Like what the fuck? And like most jobs nowadays, they don't even have a uniform. So that's the point. Let's get rid of uniforms. Start at 6 or 7, maybe even 8. When you kind of you're talking, well, hopefully talking fluently, and you kind of you get like social stuff. You've learnt the sort of concepts of like social interaction and play, and then teach like the groundwork. Teach like basic math, and basically just get everyone on the same level. Don't spend like 7 years doing that. Um, and there needs to be more creative. I mean, like school. When I was at school, there was like music, and music was like 1 hour a week. That should have been at least four in my mind. Because music is just such a great way of like expressing, and also of changing people, like articulating a thought that I guess you never even realize was there until you listen to a certain lyric or a certain riff or a certain beat, and you can't like just speak that. And anyway, um going off on a tangent there. I think I should call that the podcast. Like going off on a tangent, or are you still talking? Are you still talking podcast? Because a lot of people say that to me. Like, are you really still talking? Like, yeah, you're not listening. So maybe call it that. Are you listening podcasts? So I can hear. I can tell you're not listening. Um. So yeah, and then by the time it's secondary age, stop teaching like higher level maths and like science and stuff, and just have it be a bit more like college and uni early on, where you essentially choose a path for yourself. It's like, oh, okay, well, if you want to be a rocket scientist, then go down that route. Or if you want to, if you aspire to be a banker or a lawyer or something, then go down that route. If you want to be creative, then go down that route. There should be more choice earlier on, and it should be structured less like, because schools are just structured like a 9 to 5 job, aren't they? Which most jobs aren't. They're not anymore. I mean, I'm bloody directing. That's like nearly a 12-hour day. Then well, more actually, like 14, 15. That's like, I've seen a documentary that's just about like people in the film industry, just like their families just like fall apart because of their job. But I guess that's you know what you do for your craft. Um, don't just yeah, don't let anyone like ruin your dreams. Like I guess but go back to like university. And why I didn't like choose to go further afield to like London or whatever. Like now, um, yeah, it was the relationship. I've kind of I was like, I don't. When you're with someone, you're like, you don't want to move away from the. You're like, sacrifice what you have for an education, which, it wasn't like she was deliberately saying, "Oh no, you can't go away anywhere." It's just I kind of just thought, well, if I'm gonna be with this person forever, then I can't really just ditch them for like 3 years. um, so the option was either call it quits or go to a uni kind of nearby. And luckily here, the college that I'd attended for the past 4 years before, was it 4 years? I think it's 5 years actually. Bloody hell. Um, yeah, well, one of those years was kind of a waste year because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I did gardening for a year, horticulture. Um, yeah, so I was kind of like, well, I don't want to like screw up what I have here, so I'm just gonna, I'm gonna, I'm in a lucky area where I could study this the same degree here. Obviously, it's nowhere near where like the industry is. There's not a lot of work down here, but I'll face that. I'll face that problem when I get there. And then it's like, yeah, it's just immediately like the relationship just, well, it didn't end immediately, but it was clearly, it clearly run its course, and it was time. So that was that, and yeah. So I mean, this year's been pretty shit, to be honest. I mean, I'm not I'm not a believer in like karma or anything, but looking back on my life so far, I've kind of I've observed that maybe like the universe has this kind of like natural up and down motion for everyone. So, for example, like school, like secondary school, like probably the most tough and stressful, worst point of my life. Absolutely hated it, especially when it got to GCSEs. To going to college, falling in love with someone for the first time, um, having like one of the best, well, probably the best 3 years of my life, um, to then that ending last year and now this year, which it's been pretty shit, to be honest. It's yeah, because it didn't really end that well, and then pandemic. So I have kind of noticed this natural sort of up and down, like in like but where's the fun be if like it's just always happy? You got to feel down to appreciate the ups, I think. So um, but yeah, I think I'm gonna sidetrack onto something else now. I've been playing The Last of Us. Last of Us 2. I'm not like a huge gamer. I don't like play it all the time. Not like competitive or anything. I play games for the experience, for the story, I think. Um, which is why I prefer PlayStation, really. I mean, how you can argue that Xbox has better exclusives when I mean, Halo's fun and all, but I couldn't give a shit about what Gears of War's about. Whereas PlayStation, I think that they clearly has a taste for story-driven narratives, single player, which I think the industry is kind of lacking nowadays. It all seems to be like battle royale games, multiplayer games, which are fun and all. I really enjoy like Call of Duty and stuff like that. But I don't think you can beat that kind of that narrative-driven experience that games like God of War and Red Dead Redemption that are they basically just suck your life away basically because you just spend hours and it's kind of like playing The Last of Us 2. It was because I've completed it. It was kind of like just it's like binge watching an entire series, but you're even more involved in it. Your brain is like on overdrive because you're just like you're so invested in the characters, and then you're playing it as well. So it's a very I'd imagine it's a very hard kind of art form to crack, really, because it's that, especially with these sort of games, it's a very, it's a balance between the story and the gameplay. And but I feel like Naughty Dog, they've perfected it, really. But man, what a game. 25 hours long as well. It's quite it's a beast. It's the second game I've ever bought on a PS4 where it's a 2 disc install. You put the data disc in, whatever it's called, in first. That takes like half an hour to install, and then it's the main game. And it's I don't know, I've got a feeling the next generation they're gonna move up to 4K Blu-rays, because you know it's more data. And I think the PS5 is it's a 4K Blu-ray player anyway, so I might have to get a 4K TV at some point. um, so yeah, and I think the last game I bought before that was 2 discs was Red Dead Redemption 2. Um, that was that was a beefy game as well. I mean, the last generation I didn't have. I was a PS3 guy, so the games that Xbox had that were 2 disc on PlayStation, they were always single disc, because uh, like I think PS3 used, well, they used Blu-rays even back then, and poor old Xbox was still on the DVD drive. So if you had an Xbox 360 and you had GTA 5, that was 2 discs on that rather than just 1 disc on the PS3. Um, so and that's a COD as well, the PS5. I mean, I know there's a choice, but the digital edition, and it's going to be like £100 cheaper as well. Like what the cheek? I mean, I there's something about having physical like discs that, I mean, obviously you have to get up and put it in. But, I'm not fucking lazy. Um, but like, just the having like an actual copy of a game or a DVD or anything is who's freaking beeping their horn at this time? Just are people like what? Why are people on this throughout near my house so like rude? Like the neighbors literally like mow the lawn at like 10 o'clock at night. It's honestly, and the I'm not gonna name anyone, but I know that like people over the road, this guy's just constantly got like these cars just on the road because they don't have a driveway, just these cars that he's always fixing up, and these people are just always coming to buy them. Like every 2 weeks, the police just sit and watch them, because I think he's like clearly doing it illegally. Clearly doesn't have any training whatsoever, because otherwise these people buying the cars wouldn't keep coming back. It's like, can I get some new neighbours? It's like, how many freaking dog shits do I have to throw over the friends before they get the message? Um, but yeah, Last of Us 2. It's I mean, how like a game. I mean, if you told me like 10 years ago that a game would have better, more effective storytelling than like most TV series and films out there, I'd laugh. Like, get a game with a good story. Like, what are you on about? Like, I want to shoot something. But and I know like it's getting a lot of controversy, and but you can't like shit on a game because of the choices that the writers. I mean, I guess you can, but I think it's it definitely has subverted people's expectations the same way the Last Jedi did. But I appreciate it. it could have been the game we were all expecting, and like you just please the whole audience as as a collective, or do you try something like bold and innovative? And I don't think this is a spoiler, but the new character Abby, who you play as for pretty much half the game, is a lot more interesting than Ellie. I find a lot more better written, and you fully appreciate and understand her motivations at the end, and but at the same time, it's not it's definitely divided the fan base, I think, and I don't know. I don't think I don't see them making a third one, to be honest. I think it's done. I think that they'll either go back to Uncharted, or hell, even Jack and Daxter. That would be right, Jack and Daxter on the PS5. Or they do something new, and when they do something like when they make a new IP, Naughty Dog, they even though they have no idea what they're doing, and I get that it's a very daunting experience, like going into something new and like telling a new story, and I fully respect them for that. They always seem to they always seem to come up with these like incredible ideas that just stick the landing. Like the Uncharted, it's like you know the Indiana Jones game that we always wanted, basically, and then they made four of them, and like the fourth one, honestly, like one of the best games of this generation, I thought. Um, and then The Last of Us was just The Last of Us is just something else. It's like, I mean, people compare it to The Walking Dead, but it's just on another level. Like Walking Dead had needed how many like 11? What are they on now? 11 series to tell that story. Like the Last of Us, is such the first one was such a tight narrative, and it's such a simple story, and it takes so many twists and turns, and the gameplay was Uncharted esque, but a lot more grounded. Like especially you play as Joel, he's much more like of a brute character than Nathan Drake, who is obviously designed to be kind of he's flying around the level like a freaking ninja, but with that weight to it. But it's a kind of fun adventure romp, I guess. So whereas The Last of Us is a lot more kind of uh grounded, and the fact that like the zombie, well, they're not zombies, they're infected, as they call them. That the virus is actually the fungus that infects the people is an actual real life fungus that infects ants, and like that makes them become cannibalistic, and when the body dies, the fungus lives on, and creates these spores. The fact that they kind of went, oh well, what if that jumped to humans, and then the actual character design into the infected is kind of something that is fresh, and like not the typical zombie look, was yeah, as from an art standpoint, it's a very interesting look. And then the second one, you've got the whole like different factions, and like what if there was a faction that they kind of removed all kind of history and like attachment to the pre-outbreak world, and don't believe in electricity, and have gone back to kind of the primal sort of bow and arrow society. Um, so it's like what would something like that look like? So and it explores um you know revenge and why taking vengeance over something is not always the best idea, which I know is quite an old concept as it's been done to death, but sort of the way that it shows there really is no villain in The Last of Us Part Two. But I mean, it as it sets up it as the setup it's clearly defining Abby. I mean, there's kind of a spoiler now as the villain, um, but by the end I didn't know who to root for. I kind of saw the pros and cons of both characters, really, both like factions, and that's another thing. Like all the three kind of main parties within the narrative, it you you kind of get all of them, and through Abby's sort of eyes more so than Ellie, that explores more of the world. And then because you're seeing it through a new character's eyes as well, through a character that has been part of this world for her whole life, and you're kind of asked to kind of accept that this is what she is. This is her kind of like companionship with everyone, and her interaction with the world. Whereas Ellie, she was always kind of discovering like these things for the first time, even though she's born after the outbreak. Her and Joel were kind of, because they were on this quest through the country, they were kind of like always stumbling on these things for the first time. So to see those, like, to see these factions that would normally come across as being like a new thing, to see it through someone who is already part of that, and and you know understand, and you kind of understand them a bit more, I think. And in the end, the wolves are like, yeah, they're good guys, I thought. So and they kind of stem from the fireflies, and I guess that's where the first one did a similar thing, where it's like, oh, the fireflies, yeah, they're the best. They're gonna free us all. They're gonna find a cure. To like, oh no, they're evil. But you're only thinking they're evil because Joel thinks they're evil, and you'll experience the story through his eyes. But that's that's only subjective. That's only because he wanted they were gonna to get a cure from Ellie, who's immune. They're gonna have to kill. It was gonna kill her. So he was like, well, she's like my daughter. That basically, you can't, even though his daughter died, it's like this is as good as I'm gonna get. So I can't lose another daughter essentially. Um, and but then again, the from a objective point of view, fireflies weren't evil. They were trying to do the right thing. They were trying to cure the world. And then it's even more kind of tragic when you get to The Last of Us 2 and you realise that Abby had this personal connection to the Fireflies. Then it really it's really kind of quite intellectual. You can't just be like, oh well, you bloody hate them, they're rubbish. You can't. It's a really challenging game because you can't be like, wow, yeah, I'm gonna root for them. I'm good. It's like, who is good and evil? It's like no one is. It's all agendas, isn't it? All point of views. Um, but yeah, what a game. I'd say out of the two, I think the Last of Us 2, obviously gameplay wise, stunning, and just a blast to play, and fucking brutal as well. It just doesn't give you a break. You forget that it's a zombie game at certain points because of the sheer amount of enemies it throws at you. And the AI is relentless. It's the amount of times I've tried. I always have the intention of trying to stealth a level, and then for some reason there's always like someone behind me like, oh, it's a wolf, and then you just have to run. But if you just like in the last one, you could just run and you could just charge straight towards the enemy. But they've changed the mechanics. So if you just charge towards the enemy, like their accuracy is like double, so they'll just shoot you in the face. Which if you have it on lower difficulties, your character's basically a bullet sponge. But alright, if you have it on the harder difficulties, then a couple of hits you're down. And like little things which games have never really done, but when you're stealthing, like little things like the conversation between the NPCs, the enemy AI, like they'll be if you're about if there's two guys that have just separated, they're walking in opposite directions, but they're still kind of chatting. Um, they'll be like mid conversation. You'll like take one of them out, and then the other guy will be like, "Well, what do you think of that?" And then they'll be like, "Hey, what?" You gone silent. Like they'll like recognize that that the response that they were waiting for in the dialogue wasn't wasn't there. And then that will alert them that someone must be there. I mean, that is just I can't even begin to imagine. I mean, no wonder it took 7 years. The amount of times they would have had to record like one of those scenarios for like each possible outcome. Like, what if you just bite? Because you can just walk past guys. Like, you could probably go out through a lot of the game without killing a single person. Um, so there must have been a scenario there where that conversation just plays out naturally, and also there must have been a conversation where for the players that just go guns blazing, where that conversation happened at all. So it's a I don't know. When I play games like that, it kind of it 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 makes me want to kind of question where I'm going with like, do I want to be a filmmaker? Because game developing is like they have like a whole team as well, like the directors, the same. It's the same thing. It's just, but I'd imagine it's like double the work because you're crafting this narrative and creating a game that has got to be playable and like is good to play and like and I'd imagine a lot of it because they do motion capture with like the actors. A lot of it is like a film, really. And I never thought I'd be saying this about a game, but when I'm watching cutscenes, which are obviously one take because they games nowadays that have loading screens between cutscene and gameplay, it's all kind of one camera motion. There's a lot of points where I'm like, that is such a good like shot, or that is so well crafted, that scene. Um, that is so well directed, and then I realised this is a game, isn't it? And God of War, where the whole thing is one continuous shot, so that they can't. There is no break from start to finish. From the camera is constantly following the character, either with you controlling the camera or the the director. I don't know. They have like a equivalent of a cinematographer on game, I guess. I don't know. They must have because they have like they have like the mocap suits, and then they have this like digital camera within the pre-rendered world that they've created. So yeah, when I play the games, I do kind of wish I'd taken like a gaming course instead because it's I've always been into gaming, and it's kind of like no one no one's ever rarely do you come across someone who's like, oh, I'm a game developer. Like if you're in that sort of media, it's like, oh, I mean, you're either a filmmaker, a photographer, or something or other. It's like rare. I don't think I've ever met anyone who actually works in the gaming industry. Um, but I think most of these studios, they're either in sort of Europe or America. I can't think. I mean, I think it's Gorilla Games is like. I think that's based in London, but that's the only ones I can think of. Um, and in terms of career, it's like about the going back to like schools and stuff. Like my mum who works in a school, she came to me yesterday. She was like, oh, I spoke to one of my colleagues, and she was like, oh, I wanted to be a filmmaker. So she was like, oh, yeah, that's great. So I was like, that is a tragic story. That is, if anyone's listening, who cares? If you're aspiring to something and you don't become that and become a teacher instead, that is a failure in my mind. That is an unsuccessful story. It don't go like, oh wow, that's awesome. You wanted to be a pilot. Like, if you're a teacher, that you teachers are basically people who failed their dream, or they didn't have a dream and they didn't know what else to do, so they just thought they'd carry on working the same place they spent the first 15 years of their life in. And it's like they just feel like they're just gonna be there forever, so they thought, well, I'll just carry on what I was taught onto the next generation. But yeah, if you had, I mean, I don't think I can't think anyone aspiring to be a teacher. Like, surely that's like, that cannot be someone's dream. Like, I want to be a teacher. It's like, fuck off. Like, you just spent a quarter of your life nearly in a school. Why would you want to spend? I mean, I guess you get paid for it. They get paid quite a lot, but yeah, fuck that. If I oh god, that is like the worst scenario. Me wanting to be a director and then ending up teaching film. It's like that has got to be the story behind the people who've taught me. They you know they tried working their way up the ranks of the film industry, but clearly weren't good enough, and then ended up working in a college. No, college is different. It's that, tutors are more like your colleagues, aren't they? Um, but I think this is coming to an end. I want to do one of these every week. I would like to get guests on, but yeah, it's I have to see who wants to be on. But I've enjoyed this. Um, I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy editing it, but we'll see. And we should be like trying to decide where to put it and actually what to name it. If anyone's listening, they've got a suggestion of what to name it, then I'd appreciate that. But yeah, I've been Dom, and thank you for listening to this wonderful podcast.